On Christmas Eve, my daughter revealed an incredible truth. We want just family. What happened next changed everything. John stared at the stack of bills teetering like a house of cards on the kitchen table. It was Christmas Eve, and the holiday spirit seemed lost somewhere in the clutter of worry and uncertainty that filled their small Midwestern home. Twinkling lights adorned the tree, their cheer dulled by the heavy shadows cast by mounting stress. Outside, the first snowflakes began to fall, softening the edges of reality, but inside, the air was taut with unspoken frustration. Maria, his wife, worked tirelessly at the local diner, her warm smile for customers masking the fatigue of long hours. She always exuded hope, it was her gift. But John found himself sinking deeper into the darkness of work, buried under the weight of providing for their family. Emma and Lily deserved a magical Christmas, but she couldn't shake the feeling of invisibility. Emma, at 14, had begun to drift. As they gathered around the table that night, the smell of pine mixed with a sense of heaviness. Their old traditions felt like chains, binding them to obligations rather than joy. John carved the roast, attempting to keep the conversation light, but Emma's silence created an invisible barrier. The twinkling lights that once danced in their eyes now felt like reminders of what was absent. Emma's heart raced. The flickering candlelight reflected her inner turmoil. This wasn't just about gifts or food, it was about connection. It was about family. We want just family, she exclaimed, the words tumbling out as if they'd been locked inside her for too long. It sliced through the air, heavy and raw. The room fell silent as John felt the weight of her confession. The truth hung like an anchor, threatening to drown him. He looked at Maria, who met his gaze with understanding. She too knew the walls he built were closing in. The look in Emma's eyes pierced him, crystallizing all the missed moments. Was he still the father she needed? Suddenly, the wind howled outside, and snow began to swirl into a full-blown storm. It trapped them in the warmth of their home, wrapping them in a cocoon of solitude. Then, a gentle knock broke the silence. Neighbors they barely spoke to arrived with homemade meals, sharing the kindness of community that reminded John of what he'd almost forsaken. Laughing and reminiscing, they momentarily pushed aside his worries. But the weight remained that he thought about Emma's plea as sorrow turned into self-reflection. Was success merely a matter of numbers and contracts? Or was it in the moments spent laughing, nurturing, rebuilding their connection? He realized the truth lay not in provision but in presence. The chaos of the world faded, he wanted to be there, truly there for his family. Just as hope flickered to life, another knock echoed through the house, pulling John's attention to the door. The breath hitched in his throat as he opened it, revealing a figure from his past, someone he never expected to see again. The warmth of possibility stood before him, but it also threatened to unearth buried truths. What would this confrontation mean for his family? Would they be able to navigate the unfamiliar ground ahead? John's heart raced with the realization that the answers might shape not just their Christmas but the very fabric of their family's future. John stood frozen at the door, staring into the familiar but long-forgotten face from his past. Ben, an old friend from high school, had a warmth about him, yet his eyes held a hint of uncertainty. "John," he said, his voice breaking slightly with emotion, "I didn't know where else to go." It took a moment for John to process what this meant. They hadn't spoken in years, and the memories of laughter shared with Ben felt distant, clouded by the passage of time. The festive atmosphere inside the house felt worlds away. The laughter of neighbors echoed, but the joy was now mixed with an unsettling tension at the doorstep. "Hey, Ben, come in," John finally managed, stepping aside to let him in. The chill of the evening clung to Ben like a shadow as he crossed the threshold. The moment he entered, Emma's curious gaze turned toward the door, and John could read the confusion written across her face. "Dad, who's that?" "An old friend," John replied, trying to keep his voice steady. He glanced at Maria, who was taking in the scene with inquisitive eyes. The air grew thick with unspoken questions. Ben sank onto a chair, visibly shaken. "I'm sorry to just show up like this, I just felt I needed to see you." He shifted uneasily, then broke the silence that hung heavily over them. "I heard about everything. Your family, the changes. Emma's brows furrowed as she glanced between her father and this stranger. John's heart raced. This was not how he envisioned the evening unfolding. "What changes?" she asked, her voice almost a whisper as if afraid of the answer. Ben's gaze dropped to his hands, and John sensed an avalanche of buried emotions ready to spill. "I heard you're going through tough times." "I wish I could help," he said. "You know, life's been hectic for all of us. I'm back in town for the holidays and I was hoping we could reconnect." Maria joined them at the table, setting down a plate of cookies, her warmth trying to mend the air. "It's nice to see you, Ben," she offered softly, sensing the weight of the moment. "Christmas can be overwhelming, that's for sure." "Is that what it is? Overwhelming?" Ben glanced around the room, his eyes settling on the faint remnants of holiday cheer the ornaments hung with care, the half-lit tree. "I remember the nights we used to just hang out, no worries, just us," he said, a wistful smile creeping across his face. John felt a lump in his throat. The laughter of their youth felt so out of reach now. Those were good times. But the memory of those carefree days only highlighted the emptiness surrounding him now. He felt his daughter's eyes on him, and all at once, he wished to shield her from the memories of his failure. "Is that why you're back? To fix past mistakes?" John didn't mean to sound harsh, but the edge in his voice betrayed his inner turmoil. Ben looked up, surprised but not defensive. "I'm here because I want to make amends to find a more balanced life. I thought maybe we could do this together." The suggestion hung in the air, crackling like the static that follows a sudden snowstorm. Could John trust him? Could he trust himself to step out of the pressure cooker of his life and attempt something new? Outside, the snow continued to swirl, creating a beautiful yet chaotic canvas against the darkness. Inside, it felt as if the world had paused just for them, a charged moment filled with possibility, yet fraught with the risk of failure. John's heart beat loudly in his ears as he looked at Emma, then at Maria, whose expression was inviting yet cautious. Was this exactly the opportunity he needed to reclaim his family? "Maybe we can talk," John ventured, but his words trailed off. He didn't know where to start. The future hung in the balance. As John took a deep breath, the door creaked open again, revealing another visitor. With it rushed a sense of urgency. Just like before, something more awaited beyond. What new revelation would knock at their door this time, and could it further fracture or heal their family? As the door swung open, John's heart sank. He barely had time to process the chill that swept through the room when the figure stood there, silhouetted against the light of the porch. It was Mrs. Anderson, their neighbor, her anxious face illuminated by the glow of the festooned street lamps. "John!" she exclaimed, breathless as if she had sprinted up the steps. "You must come quickly. It's urgent." Maria looked startled, instinctively stepping closer to John as he waved Ben to wait. The moment felt surreal. "What's wrong?" John asked, concern lacing every word. "It's Mr. O'Reilly. He collapsed in his driveway," she stammered. "He needs help, and I couldn't find anyone else home. I thought maybe you." John's instincts kicked in. "Of course, I'll help." He glanced back at Ben, who had risen with a mix of confusion and concern on his face. "Stay here with the girls," John instructed. Emma, catching on to the urgency, looked up at her father. "Can I come too, Dad?" "No, you stay with Maria," he said firmly, though he felt a tug at his heart. The festivity they had been attempting to rekindle felt so far away now. He was about to step back into a world of chaos when everything around him had been painted to celebrate peace and joy. John rushed out the door, Mrs. Anderson leading the way. Snow crunched underfoot, the evening air biting against his skin. By the time they reached Mr. O'Reilly's house, neighbors had gathered, their faces etched with worry. There he lay, a neighborly giant revered for his gruff kindness and the best chili at the block parties. Kneeling beside him, John felt the cold seep into his bones, but he wasn't thinking about himself. "Someone call 911. He shouted, taking in the sight of Mr. O'Reilly's pale face. In this moment, John was transported back to childhood. The memories of playing in O'Reilly's yard like a second home flooded him. "What happened?" he asked gently, trying to keep a steady voice for the older man. O'Reilly groaned softly. John's hands were shaking slightly. This man had been a linchpin in the community, dependable and always there. It felt wrong to see him so vulnerable. Adding to the tension, John caught sight of the glow from his own home, where vague laughter and voices drifted through the air. It felt like a cruel juxtaposition, celebration on one side and desperation on the other. The ambulance sirens wailed in the distance, drawing closer, but John's heart raced with the weight of his own family left behind. He thought of Emma and Maria, still within those walls draped in holiday cheer, unaware of the struggle surrounding them. He couldn't shake the feeling that time was slipping away, that he needed to choose what mattered most. As John applied pressure to Mr. O'Reilly's chest, he felt a flicker of something deep within him awaken, a purpose, a reason to fight. Suddenly, Ben appeared at John's side, his face a mask of determination. "What can I do?" he asked, his earlier apprehension replaced with resolve. "Stay with us, just in case," John replied, surprised by the support that his old friend had offered. It was an unexpected solidarity, like stepping out of a fog and finding clarity. The ambulance arrived, and paramedics spilled out, directing everyone to step back. John felt a rush of relief despite the chaos, but deep down, he understood this was more than just about something urgent happening outside. As they loaded Mr. O'Reilly onto a stretcher, John glanced back toward his home. There was a thread of warmth, of family waiting in those rooms. Could he still pull together the threads of his past and future? Just then, Emma's small face peeked from behind the crowd, her innocent eyes searching for him. She lifted a hand, waving affably in the midst of the frenzy, reminding John of the very reason for each fight. What if this incident drew them all closer together, just as the world seemed to fracture? As John turned back to help the paramedics, he felt a rush of hope. Perhaps reconciliation with Ben wasn't just about fixing the past but about building a strength for tomorrow. But as Mr. O'Reilly was placed in the ambulance, a new fear gripped him. What if it wasn't just the neighbor who needed saving? What if, just perhaps, the cracks in his own family were deeper than he had dared to recognize? Would the reality outside his front door draw them apart or pull them closer together? John stood there, watching the ambulance's doors swing shut, its red and white lights flashing like a strobe on the dark street. The sound of the sirens faded into the night, but he remained rooted outside Mr. O'Reilly's house, feeling both the weight of uncertainty and a stinging sense of urgency. He could still feel Emma's tiny hand waving at him, innocent and warm against the cold. "John." Ben's voice pulled him back to the moment. Ben was watching him closely, urgency clear in his expression. "We should go check on the girls. Maria is worried." With a nod, John turned back toward the house, the festive glow seeming dimmer now, the laughter of friends fading into an echo of discomfort. He wanted to shake off the darkness that clung to his thoughts. What if this moment became a turning point? A chance to confront truths that had been simmering below the surface for far too long. As they stepped inside, John's gaze found Emma curled up on the couch, her face illuminated by the shimmering lights of the Christmas tree. Maria sat beside her, a protective hand resting on the girl's shoulder. Both looked up expectantly as the door clicked shut behind them. "Dad!" Emma exclaimed, her voice brightening the room. "Did Mr. O'Reilly get help?" John knelt down beside her, brushing a few strands of hair away from her face. "They took him to the hospital. The paramedics are with him now," he reassured her, trying to match her hopeful expression while feeling a gnawing worry deep in his gut. His heart ached with the knowledge that life could shift so suddenly. One moment, they were celebrating with lights and laughter, and the next, the world seemed heavy with fate. "Is he going to be okay?" Emma asked, her eyes searching John's. I hope so," John replied, reluctant to promise what he couldn't guarantee. Maria eyed John closely. "Are you all right?" she asked quietly, sensing the tension in the air. John had never expected that keeping feelings bottled would be the worst burden to carry. Now, it felt like a wall between him and everyone he loved. "I will be," he finally said, the hollow ache in his chest starting to give way to something more tangible, a resolve. He had to talk to Maria, to mend the fractures that had settled in their lives. "Can you two give me a few minutes?" Emma frowned slightly but nodded, sensing the seriousness of the moment. Okay, but you have to tell us if he's alright later, okay? Promise, he said, swallowing hard as he watched them retreat toward the kitchen, small feet padding away from the warmth of the living room. As soon as they were gone, John turned to face Maria. We need to talk about us. About everything that's been going on. The words tumbled out before he could reconsider. Maria crossed her arms, a familiar tension returning to her posture. Now? John, I don't know if this is the right time, maybe it's exactly the right time, he countered, stepping closer. Things are too fragile. The way life is, how it can change in an instant, it makes me realize I can't wait anymore. Are we really going to do this? She asked, the uncertainty deepening her brow. We should, he replied, feeling a new clarity push against the past hesitations that had tied him. What if this is a wake-up call? What if we face it all and come out stronger on the other side? Maria's eyes softened just a fraction, and John felt the pull of hope stirring in his chest. Together? She whispered, inching closer. His heart raced. Together. But just as he began to breathe a sigh of relief, the phone rang, slicing through the moment with sharp urgency. They both froze, the sound droning on, insistently summoning John back to reality. He dashed to grab the phone, his skin prickling with trepidation. What if it was news about Mr. O'Reilly? What if it thrust them right back into the chaos they'd been so desperate to avoid? As he reached for the receiver, he felt a sense of impending clarity, wondering whether this call would pull them apart or bond them tighter. With a shaky breath, he answered, "Hello?" The voice on the other end was unfamiliar, serious. "Mr. Johnson? We need to speak to you about Mr. O'Reilly's condition." John's heart sank. What could they possibly have to say? Was the storm outside just beginning? John held the phone tightly, his knuckles white with tension. The voice on the line, calm yet urgent, felt worlds away, a distant echo muddled with fear. "Mr. Johnson, we have concerning updates on Mr. O'Reilly. Can you come to the hospital?" His heart raced as he moved to the kitchen where Maria stood, arms still crossed, eyes locked on his face, searching for answers. "What did they say?" she asked softly, fear flickering behind her eyes. They want me to come to the hospital," he said, voice barely above a whisper. The warmth of home felt more like a distant memory now, laden with shadows of doubt that crept around the edges of their festive cheer. Maria's expression changed from concern to determination. "I'm coming with you." "No, Maria, it may take a while," he said, feeling the weight of their fragile moment pressing down again. "You should stay with the girls. They need you. I'll keep you updated." "No, I need to be there," she insisted, her brow furrowed. "What if it's bad?" John glanced back toward the couch, where Emma's soft laughter echoed like music, tethering him to the moment. What if this visit altered everything? What if Mr. O'Reilly's fate made their own fears feel trivial? The uncertainty clawed at him. "Fine," he relented, taking a deep breath. "Let us go together, then." They rushed to the front door, navigating through the tangle of emotions. The Christmas lights blinked rebelliously, reminding him of how quick joy could turn to sorrow. The car ride felt endless, filled with the tension of unspoken words. The streets, normally vibrant with holiday decorations, seemed dimmer, as if the world outside shared their sense of dread. John glanced at Maria, her face cast in shadows, illuminated briefly by passing streetlights. He wanted to ask her what they were really afraid of, not just Mr. O'Reilly's condition but what this moment might mean for them. But how could he? As they arrived at the hospital, the sterile glow of the entrance was overwhelming. The building loomed large, a fortress of unknowns. He parked the car and they hurried inside, hands brushing against each other, a flicker of warmth in the growing cold. Inside the emergency room, the fluorescent lights buzzed above, casting a glaring spotlight on their anxiety. John approached the receptionist, his heart pounding in time with Maria's anxious breaths beside him. "We're here for Mr. O'Reilly. He was brought in a little while ago." The receptionist's fingers danced over the keyboard, her expression unreadable. "Please have a seat. I'll let you know when we have more information." Discouraged, John led Maria to a row of plastic chairs, feeling the weight of uncertainty crush him. He could see other families gathered, some laughing nervously, others teary-eyed. Time seemed to stretch, and with it, their anxiety sprouted into something heavier. What if John began, but the thought choked in his throat. He didn't want to voice the fears that were clawing at him like wolves hungry for a kill. Whatever happens, we'll face it together, Maria said, her voice steady. We can't carry these burdens alone. He turned to her, drenched in gratitude. Here was the core of what they needed: support, trust. Just as hope began to swell again, a doctor stepped into the waiting area, scanning the room with a clinical gaze. Mr. Johnson? The doctor called out. John's heart plummeted. Here it was the moment of truth. Maria gripped his arm tightly as he stood up. Please, just tell us what we need to know. The doctor's expression was serious, yet there was a flicker of compassion in his eyes. John felt a wave of dread wash over him again. Mr. O'Reilly's condition is critical. The words hung heavy in the air, plunging John and Maria into a silence that swallowed everything alive. What awaited them on the other side of this news? Would it fracture their family further, or bring them closer together in the face of adversity? As the doctor began to explain, John felt the harsh reality setting in, the storm brewing once more. Would they be strong enough to face whatever lay ahead? The doctor's words felt like a punch to the gut. John struggled to catch his breath, the weight of them pressing hard against his chest. Maria's grip on his arm tightened as if she could hold him together. Critical? She echoed, her voice breaking slightly, the dread making her eyes shimmer with unshed tears. Yes, the doctor continued, his tone steady but firm. We're doing everything we can, but he's in serious condition. It's best to prepare for the worst. John's mind spiraled. He thought of Mr. O'Reilly, a steadfast figure in their lives, someone who had always extended a hand when they needed support. Memories flooded in, the lessons on the grill in the backyard, the laughter shared at summer barbecues, and the way he had always looked out for Maria like a second father. Anguish sliced through him. Can we see him? Maria asked, her voice a delicate thread straining hard against the gravity of the situation. Yes, but only for a few minutes. I must warn you, he's not responsive, the doctor said, his eyes softening as he spoke. Please follow me. They moved through the hallways of sterile white walls and the sharp scent of antiseptic. Each step felt daunting, like they were walking towards something monumental, something that could change everything. John's thoughts raced back to the girls. Would they understand? Would they have to go through a life without Mr. O'Reilly's laughter? When they approached the room, the doctor paused to open the door, revealing the flickering lights and the muffled sounds of machines. John felt a chill. The room was dimly lit, and Mr. O'Reilly lay in the hospital bed, fragile as a leaf. The steady beeping of the monitors filled the silence, a relentless reminder of the stark reality. Mr. O'Reilly, Maria whispered, her voice barely above a breeze. He looked so small, overwhelmed by tubes and wires. John clenched his jaw, fighting back tears. How could the man they knew, the one full of stories and warmth, be reduced to this? Maria stepped closer, her eyes welling up. You taught us so much. We're here now. Please fight. John took a deep breath, stepping beside her. We need you, Mr. O'Reilly. You can't leave us. Not now. He realized his voice was cracking, raw with emotion. They stood there, holding hands, keeping each other anchored. They shared the weight of this moment, one that felt both personal and painfully public. Somehow, amidst the despair, a small flicker of hope ignited. It was in the way Maria squeezed his hand, the togetherness they fought for. John. A voice broke through like a ray of light. His sister, Kelly, appeared in the doorway, her eyes wide and concerned. The expression on her face mirrored his own fears. What's happening? The tension in John's shoulders eased slightly. Family, he thought, the core of their strength. We're just here for Mr. O'Reilly, John replied, his voice steadier than a heartbeat. He's not doing well. Kelly rushed to their side, her presence a balm. "We're in this together," she said quietly, her gaze flicking to Mr. O'Reilly. "And we have to be ready for anything." The mention of readiness sent a shiver down John's spine. He felt lost, suspended between hope and despair. Each of them had a duty for family now, to protect one another's hearts, to lean on each other when the world felt too heavy. As they stood in that small hospital room, surrounded by uncertainty, tears began to spill. John felt Maria move closer, wrapping herself around him, and he reciprocated. They were all in it together, breathing, holding on, quietly navigating the turmoil of what was yet to come, but the thought loomed over him: what if this changed them forever? Would they be strong enough to survive? In that moment, a distant question floated into his mind, the pull of something greater. Could they face what lay ahead and still keep their family bound tightly together? Just then, a nurse entered, her demeanor urgent and brisk. "We need to move Mr. O'Reilly for further tests." John's heart raced again. The gravity of it all felt suffocating. Would he have enough strength to let go, to give Mr. O'Reilly whatever fight he had left? The rush of the nurse broke John's thoughts like a wave crashing on the shore. They had entered such a fragile space, yet the urgency of the situation pushed them closer to the edge of something deep and unsettling. As the nurse prepared the medical apparatus, John could see beads of sweat forming on her forehead. She worked diligently, but it did little to ease his own rising panic. "Can we just a moment longer?" Maria's voice quivered as she stepped forward, her eyes pleading. The nurse paused, glancing at the monitors before nodding, but her expression revealed a tightrope of responsibility. Time felt like melting ice. John felt the air thicken around him. Mr. O'Reilly's stillness in the bed was a haunting canvas of fear and memory. Each beat from the machines felt louder, a relentless drum rolling through the silence. John mirrored Maria's anxiety, grappling with the truth of their situation. It wasn't just a matter of a medical emergency. It was about losing a pillar of their lives. "Why him?" Kelly whispered harshly, clenching her fists. It was finally out, the question that danced around all their minds, but nobody dared to voice. "He's done so much for us. Why does this happen to good people?" The weight of her words anchored them momentarily in shared anguish, pooling into a silence that felt almost sacred. But it was Maria who finally shook her head, her voice breaking through. "Maybe it's not about why. It's about what we do now." They turned back to Mr. O'Reilly, fragile, fighting. As they hovered by the bed, a flicker of recognition crossed his face. It was subtle, just a twitch of an eyelid, but it set John's heart racing. He leaned closer. "Mr. O'Reilly, can you hear us?" "Please, just hold on," Maria added, her voice mingling with desperation. "We're all here for you." Each second felt like an hour, every heartbeat a reminder of urgency. Kelly grasped her brother's arm, and the three of them formed a circle of solidarity around the bed. The invisible thread binding their hearts felt more tangible now, an echo of love that could possibly reach beyond medical boundaries. Then, with a suddenness that stole the air, the monitors began to beep louder, a chaotic symphony that filled the room. John felt his heartbeats sink to the alarming rhythm, and panic pierced his composure. "Nurse!" he shouted, his voice shaking, but the nurse was already responding, rushing to the bed. "We need to move him now," she barked, flipping switches and calling for assistance. A team poured in, busy yet gentle as they prepared Mr. O'Reilly for transport. In the whirlwind of movement, John caught a glimpse of clarity in Mr. O'Reilly's deep-set eyes, a fleeting connection that ignited a spark of hope. The old man appreciated their presence. He didn't seem alone in that moment. That thought resonated deep inside John, igniting a warmth. As they wheeled Mr. O'Reilly out, Maria grasped John's hand tighter, her heart pounding against his. "We won't lose him, John. We can't. Not after everything." For a moment, time felt suspended. They shuffled alongside the bed, entering a labyrinth of hallways echoing with the sounds of life and survival. John tuned into the murmurs around him, a symphony of faith, resilience, and urgency. When they finally reached the operating room, the light dimmed, shadows of staff moving purposefully around them. "Wait here," the nurse instructed, and suddenly, John felt the crushing weight of separation. Maria pressed her forehead against the doorframe. We have to believe he will be okay. Her words lingered, floating between hope and despair. I know, John murmured, the thought solidifying more than ever. They had come too far to let fear consume them. But how long could they hold on to that hope? Just then, a voice emerged from the back, a familiar one. What is happening? It was one of the daughters, Sarah, keen with worry. The sight of her rekindled a rush of protective instinct in John. Sarah, he began, but as he looked into her anxious eyes, he realized just then how deep this was running. The family bond, the love that could defend against darkness. Why wasn't I told? She pressed, raising her voice slightly. I should be here too. He swallowed hard, feeling the urgency of the moment. We'll explain everything, but right now, we must focus on Mr. O'Reilly. In that quivering interchange, John sensed the undeniable truth binding them all. They needed to unite, not only for Mr. O'Reilly but for each other too. Could they withstand this struggle and come out stronger, fortified by the love that connected them? The doors of the operating room swung closed, sealing Mr. O'Reilly away but leaving their hearts wide open to uncertainty. What awaited them on the other side, and would their family find a way to heal together? The question hung in the air, heavier than ever. The sterile hallway buzzed with activity, sharp movements contrasting with the dull thud of John's heart. With Mr. O'Reilly now behind those solid doors, uncertainty wrapped around him like a fog. He felt the air grew colder, the sterile smell of antiseptic assaulting his senses. Time wound a little tighter here, each ticking second a reminder of their helplessness. That he turned to Maria, searching her eyes for a glimmer of solace. He's going to be okay, he said, but it felt like a flimsy shield against the barrage of anxiety. Maria's fingers tightened around his, her eyes wide, reflecting fear he wished to quell, yet unable to. We need to be strong, she whispered, a shared understanding passing between them. Kelly stood nearby, her arms folded tightly against her chest as if she could physically ward off the heaviness of the moment. They were all holding their breaths. Then, Sarah stepped forward, her face pale yet determined. What if we just talk about him? She suggested, her voice low but urgent. Remember the stories he told? The ones that made us laugh? John nodded slowly, realizing it was a lifeline. Yeah, like that time he almost fell into the lake when we were fishing. We laughed so hard we nearly cried. That's right. Kelly interjected, attempting a smile despite the tears threatening to spill. He was so mad at you for not helping him. As they shared those fleeting moments, the fabric of their collective memories began to weave something warm around them, an armor against their fear. The stories felt like a bridge, connecting them to Mr. O'Reilly and reminding them of the man full of life beyond those hospital walls. It was Sarah who pushed them further. What about his Christmas parties? The ones he hosted with that awful eggnog? He'd always say it was his secret recipe. A soft chuckle swept through the group, the tension loosening just a bit. Yeah, and he kept encouraging us to add more rum. Maria added, her voice softening as a smile finally broke through. We literally left with jugs instead of our cups. They continued in this way, a lightness blooming inside them like spring flowers against the frost. Each reminiscing sparked laughter, overshadowing the bleak reality outside those operating doors. For the first time in what felt like hours, John could breathe. But just as the laughter faded, the atmosphere shifted. A sudden clang echoed down the hall, startling them all. It was followed by rushed steps, footsteps closing in as a figure emerged from the shadows of the waiting room. It was the doctor, her expression unreadable, wielding the weight of news that could tip them toward hope or horror. Family of Mr. O'Reilly? She called, her voice steady but heavy with the importance of the message she carried. The world fell silent around them, anxiety tightening its grip anew. John felt a lump in his throat as he stepped forward, heart pounding. No more stories, no more laughter, just the rawness of reality crashing down again. They needed to hear what remained. Is he? Maria's question trailed off as she stepped into the light. The doctor's gaze shifted to each of them, gauging their readiness. Can we talk in private? The question hung in the air, a fragile strand tethering them to hope. They exchanged quick glances, feeling the plight of what might come. Would they soon be diving back into despair? Or was there a light waiting for them on the other side? John's stomach twisted. What is going on? The doctor took a breath. If she had the power to mend, or shatter, it was in this moment. Behind those closed doors, a decision was being made, one that could change everything. Would they find out that family ties run deeper than blood in that pivotal moment? Or was it all slipping away? John braced himself, ready for whatever revelation could follow. The door had opened just a crack, and through that space, the shadows loomed larger than ever. The doctor stepped back, holding the door a fraction wider as if inviting them into a deeper uncertainty. John's heart raced, caught between fear and the thin thread of hope that flickered like a dying flame. The others looked at one another, their silent exchanges heavy with unspoken questions. Just a few minutes, the doctor said, eyes imploring them to understand. Please. With a shared breath, John led the way into the small, dimly lit room. The two small chairs and a desk painted a bleak picture of the situation. This was where hopes could be confirmed or shattered. They huddled in, the door closing behind them with a soft click that echoed ominously. Mr. O'Reilly is stable, but there are risks. She struggled for a moment. He needs surgery. A collective gasp escaped Maria's lips. John's stomach flipped. How serious? He asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to hear the answer. The procedure carries some risks, but it's necessary, the doctor replied, each syllable wrapped in gravity. It's a choice between quality of life and survival. Kelly fell silent, her eyes glistening. The weight of the decision hung in balance. What if he doesn't come out? What if he doesn't wake up? The doctor's gaze softened. I can't answer that. But I can tell you that he has a strong will. He fought through a lot in life. He's not ready to let go. John felt the fire of determination ignite within him. We can't let fear decide for him, he said, voice quivering yet resolute. He deserves a fighting chance. The moment felt vulnerable, each of them peering into the depths of their hearts, weighing possibilities against the grim reality before them. It was as if they were walking a tightrope stretched high above uncertainty. What if he doesn't want this? Sarah's voice cut through the thick tension. That question hung in the air. The thought of Mr. O'Reilly, strong and full of stories, being helpless now, swallowed deeply. John remembered the laughter, the joy he brought to their lives. Would he want to fight? It's what he would want. He hesitated. Isn't it? Maria squeezed his hand tightly, as if grounding him. We should ask him. Give him that chance. Give us that chance. A flicker of agreement rippled through them, a pact forming in the charged air as they all nodded. Each of them felt that if it were their moment, they would choose to fight, to cling to the memories pressing on their hearts. The doctor looked back, gauging their resolve. If you're willing, I can gather the family, but you need to be certain. The mention of family struck something deep. They were family to Mr. O'Reilly, more than blood. The shared laughter, the stories peppered with love and camaraderie knit them together. They were intertwined in every way that mattered. John straightened his back. We're family. We'll be here for him, whatever he decides. Just tell us when. As the doctor stepped out, uncertainty loomed less like a fog and more like the dawn of a new day, filled with possibilities. The waiting room felt lighter, their burdens shifted as they prepared to support Mr. O'Reilly through his choice, and as they stood together, strength building, John realized something profound. Family isn't just about blood. It's about love, memories, and fighting for each other when it matters most. Just then, the door creaked open. The doctor peered in with a cautious optimism. Let us go talk to him, then. He's awake and he's asking for you. Each heart beat with renewed hope, anticipation swirling within them. But as they followed her out, the weight of the moment pressed on John, the realization that the hardest part was still to come. Would they be able to voice their love, to make Mr. O'Reilly choose hope over fear? The question loomed, ready to shatter or heal. The journey wasn't over, it was just beginning. As the doctor led them to Mr. O'Reilly's room, John's heart raced with a mixture of dread and hope. Each step felt heavy, laden with so many emotions. Would their neighbor, their friend, recognize the love wrapping around him? Would he choose life, choose them? The room felt brighter now, the air buzzing with potential. John glanced at Maria, whose fingers brushed against his arm, sending sparks of warmth through the cold sense of uncertainty that had gripped them. Around him, Kelly and Sarah shared quiet murmurs of encouragement, their faces taut with anticipation. They stepped inside. Mr. O'Reilly lay in the hospital bed, the same kind man they'd known for years, but now he appeared fragile, wrapped in white sheets that seemed to make him smaller. The monitor beeped steadily beside him, a heartbeat reminding them of the battle still waging within. The moment hung like a pendulum, waiting to swing in one direction or another. His eyes fluttered open slowly. The faint recognition sparked in his gaze made John's heart lighten. "Mr. O'Reilly," he breathed, pushing forward. "We're all here." O'Reilly's lips twitched into a weary smile, one that held stories of shared laughter and warmth. "You guys," he rasped, his voice cracking yet filled with the strength of familiar bonds. "I knew you'd come." The room resonated with a mixture of hope and gravity as Maria stepped forward. "We're with you, Mr. O'Reilly. Whatever you decide, we're here." Shift after shift of emotions surged through John. They weren't just there to deliver news, they were a shield of love, ready to defend against the unknown. I can't stay here," O'Reilly whispered, scanning the familiar, loving faces that filled the space. "I've seen too much in my lifetime. Couldn't do it anymore." The truth hung between them like a weight, binding them together through the sheer force of vulnerability. "Hold on just a moment. You have so much to live for," John exclaimed, his voice faltering as he fought against tears. "Think of our summers always at BBQs, of your stories. The chili. Who else can make such good chili?" The desperation in his tone added urgency. "They couldn't let this be the end." O'Reilly chuckled faintly, the sound capturing a glimpse of the man they knew. "Never liked that eggnog either, you know that, right?" "Exactly. It'll never be Christmas without your awful recipes," Kelly added, her voice steady despite the cracks of emotion threading through. Sarah stepped closer, her eyes reflecting a fierce determination. "We need you, Mr. O'Reilly. Don't let fear win. Fight for us. We're all your family, and we need you." As they rallied around him, John felt a swell of something profound, the realization of their strength. Their bond was indeed family, filled with memories, laughter, support, and love pushing against the darkness. O'Reilly's eyes flickered with more than recognition now, they sparkled with the determination born out of love. "You kids," he trailed off, tears pooling in the corners of his eyes. "I see you all fighting for me. Who am I to roll over with you all here?" An overwhelming warmth filled the room. It was the courage igniting in him that ignited hope in them too. John felt the connection pull them in a collective force that promised to break through uncertainty and panic. "You have a choice, Mr. O'Reilly. You can fight. We will be right here every step, through surgeries and recovery," he urged, the sincerity pouring out of him. Tears glimmered on the old man's cheeks. "I've fought for a long time. But for you all? I suppose I can find it in me to fight a little harder." A chorus of relief swept through the room like a soft breeze. With that decision, the future opened wide. A journey awaited them, a chance to bridge memories and hope into new tomorrows. Strengthened within their circle, they pulled together, hands clasping tightly. "We'll be right here, never alone," Maria whispered, her voice filled with conviction. United as a single entity against what lay ahead, their love formed a bastion. With focus turned to Mr. O'Reilly's fight, John felt the burden of their earlier worries dissolve, replaced by a sense of unity. It was the rarity of moments like this that shifted perspectives, every hug, every word shared, knitting their lives together tighter, forging a new path illuminated by love. They embraced hope as they were guided out, awaiting the decisions made in the operating room. As the surgical team prepared, prayers lingered between the lines of courage and bonds. They all felt it. This was a turning point. Not only for Mr. O'Reilly but for them all. In that hospital room, they learned that family is unwavering, pursuing hope through struggle, rising together. Emerging back into the world outside, John glanced at Maria, Kelly, and Sarah. This is only the beginning. We'll pull together, through it all. And as they navigated the hallways, bracing against uncertainties, the lights ahead flickered not as a warning, but as guiding stars illuminating a path they would walk side by side, ready to embrace whatever the future held. In that moment it was clear, they were family, bound, strengthened, and ready to face the unknown, hand in hand. That if this story touched your heart in any way, you need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support for more incredible stories. Leave a like now to fuel the algorithm and help spread positivity. I want to hear your reactions and feelings about this ending, so comment below. And don't wait not even one more second to share this inspiring video with at least 5 friends who truly need to see the power of family and love.